All right. Actually, 1 minute. I gotta go take care of one more thing before I actually get started. Let me turn the off here as well too. Oh, this is not the page. Here we go. All right, sorry. Should have done it before I started, but I didn't. I'll be right back. I want to refill my water before I get going. BRB. Okay. Got myself a coffee, but I did not refill my water. Now we're good though. Now we got both. I am jumping straight in with some PR reviews, and then after that, I will probably go back to working on the gradient stuff that I worked on Saturday. Where is the other? There it is. Okay. Where's the other microcontroller on my desk? No, not that one. The other one. No, not that one either. So I'm starting on this one, which is HTTP server. Something about the headers being duplicated ultimately, but that's what the fix was. But I guess not sure that I followed the issue fully. Maybe it was overwriting some of the header values. So this says it's a fix for 26. So what we're gonna do is try to recreate this because it has code that seems like it should work for showing the issue, for causing it to be broken. And then try it with the fixed version. I will probably also want my gloves, which actually are right here, thankfully. Let me also shuffle around more windows as well. I don't necessarily anticipate much in the way of chatting action, but I'll throw the chat somewhere I can see them at least. In case anybody does have questions or comments or anything. Let me get this one also. Okay. Chats over there are some chats. You pop out your Twitch chat and then close the creator dashboard, will it just keep working? Hopefully. Okay. So HTTP server, I should say. HTTP server. I probably don't have this cloned, maybe. I don't have very many things cloned. Maybe this is one of the few, though. We'll clone it. I will run it on a Feather TFT, which is what I have handy here. I don't have the camera on, I will say, though. Yeah, sometimes I have the overhead camera, which I don't have set up, so maybe once we get into stuff on the display, I'll grab that and set it up. For now, I'm just going to not worry about it, though. There's not going to be much to see on the actual device itself anyway. Let's clone. Ooh. Mind. Did Control F accidentally. It won't be in recents yet, but it'll be in those now. Let's go to this one so that it's like next to it. Really need to figure out how to make that default to just using the main interpreter. It really, really, really wants to just make an environment for every repo. I really do not want that many Python environments. I guess we'll just take the version that is released today, which I guess maybe is on our device. Did use this repo? The one thing is mine is a single file and this is totally a directory, so only have at least somewhat outdated. October. I'm just gonna call it old, and I doubt there's anything in there I need. Probably I'll go back and delete it. Just in case, though. I'll keep it for now. And then we'll bring in the current one, not the PR one yet. So let's start with the current one. We want to get our reproducer code from the issue. It's basically here, but we're going to need to, I think, we're going to need to kind of have the simple test reproducer to start with that we can put this chunk into, I think. This is a logging test thing. Let me actually do a different PR I looked at this morning. So we got to go copy this again. Okay, simple test is actually index. Actually, I might have an index from before. Do I have an index? Don't. Oh, I do. Hello world. That seems fine. Getting into, buddy? Says it's listening. I could hit it in the browser. I think let's do this though. Let's one of these things. Just because I suspect here in a little bit when we're actually digging into the specific issue, it might be nice to look at the literal requests in their sort of more raw form rather than what the browser is going to show us even in developer tools. We'll see though, we can use the browser as well. It doesn't really matter what device it is. It's going to have an IP in it, which will stay the same for a while, but ultimately will still change anyway. So it's like, doesn't matter too much putting in it. I think it was 113. Is that what it said? It said 113. You don't want /other. let's start with that. One thing is maybe, am I not on Wi-Fi? I think I'm on Wi-Fi. Maybe it doesn't want the slash? I now want the slash. Yeah, doesn't want the slash. Okay. Got request response. So now let's look at our issue. What is hopefully our reproducer code. Headers. Yeah, so we'll need that as well. Record some stuff. Probably we don't actually have, right? This is like filler for their thing. Hopefully I didn't import anything from the old one. API headers, should we make API object? I mean, where it comes from, I don't think matters. So let's just say version 1.0. Guy name is the Ocho version 8. Is that trademark? Should I not use that? That's an Indian trademark. I don't know. For Anchorman? Is that from Anchorman? Headers, we should be able to just go headers, I think, right? I think it is. It's actually weird that they have headers as just a thing, but then access API headers, I got to assume that this is the headers that they're returning when they run into the issue, though. So that's on API v1/info. Now we can go API v1.info. We will not want the trailing slash. Response body is empty. Bad request. Content length is 0 bytes. Okay. Does seem broken. I think that's not it. It's not necessarily how I interpreted the way they called it broken. That's set default. Okay. So basically, I think I get it. I think I get it. Okay, so this is making headers as a dictionary. We're passing headers here. Well, oh, we still have actually the broken one here. Why has this worked? I guess it didn't work. It failed, and then we have this except, which also does the same thing. So I guess that's probably what we actually expect. Maybe that succeeded more so than I thought. That succeeded more than I thought. Which I mean, realistically, this should catch a more specific. This doesn't. Okay. Okay. We got data. Content length 40. Content type gets turned to octet stream. Got JSON. So our bad request was from before. It was an actual bad request. Although I wonder if it should have a body still? Maybe it should have a body, I don't know. Content type gets turned to octet stream. Uppercase? The headers? Set to 38. And when the content is longer. I got content length 40. Suppose, is that enough? Is this, well, that's 40. Okay, I mean, that's 46 characters plus 3 line breaks. So it's not enough. Okay. Longer beta 87.325a. Oh, interesting. It does, well, now it says 74, so it grew. I mean, it's still lower than it would be, I think, right? That's still 80 characters, 3 line breaks, so it's still fewer, but maybe... Let's say 74 JSON. Okay, there are no new lines. That's probably right. Yeah, 74 characters. Okay. Also, I was going to say, I think I understand the problem to be that we created a new dictionary that started out empty. We passed it in here. Or here. And it caused it to overwrite some of the other things that would need to be in the headers, like content length and type, but we're not actually seeing that. issue, I don't think. I'm seeing the correct behavior as far as I can tell. Let me reduce a bit. Adding cores header messes up content type and content length. Okay, let's see. Do we have this stuff? Yeah. That stuff came through, but we also got length and type seemingly fine. I don't know what's set default. Is that on dictionary? Oh, to the length of the first response. Oh, okay, I mean, we need to call it again. Okay, we need to make it change. I see. Okay, how do we do that? So let's say... I can never remember. Can you, like, multiply strings in Python? Or is that JavaScript? Okay. Let's make it add 3 each time. It's also increment count, so even if we fail, it's still gonna go up first. Oh, right, globals. Is that why it was on API, maybe? Well, but I don't see how it was changing before. API feels like an external thing. All right, do we want to make this global, or do we want to just put it on an object? Really doesn't matter that much. Maybe we should do one on here too. Okay, so this counts up, which means the thing gets bigger each time. So we'll see if content type grows with it. I'm gonna do the first one through here. It has one of each. Okay, which makes sense because we incremented before we did anything else. So we actually did ×1 the first time, which is probably good. Otherwise, we would have not had those sections. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter too much. 83 was that. So this is actually not raw. It is formatting that for me. Interesting. Guess in here maybe? Nope, it's formatted in there too, actually. Interesting. So we can't actually see 9. This is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know where the last one is, but those are the 6 characters. Or extra, are all the, maybe there's an extra space somewhere after here, maybe? So we got 83 the first time. Run it again. It just get 83 again. Interestingly, we got 2 of these, but none of the rest is gone. The rest is gone. So yes, okay, this is the actual. I think we have made it to actually reproducing the issue. So the first time it returned, the content length was actually 83. We got 83 bytes. Everything was fine. This time, our content length should have been bigger, but it wasn't. And therefore, our response got cut off. They say 38 bytes, although they clarified later that the first response. Yeah. Okay. And essentially the problem is that we're overwriting headers, essentially. Headers is getting saved somehow. The first time we call it is kind of keeping those values and then not allowing some of the other stuff to update each turn. Not turn, but each request. And then if I understand right, were they saying if you put these to lowercase, it makes it work? I don't know. We'll test the PR. Even if that is a solution, that's kind of a weird solution. So then in the fix, they have just duplicated the headers. So it used to say headers equals headers or empty dictionary. If user did pass headers, then we just use it. And this would be the headers that we're passing here and here. If user did pass it, we use it. If user did not pass it, then we go empty dictionary. That's what we used to do. That was it. Then we just did these things. I should look up set default. What does that do? I'm not actually familiar with that. Set default method returns the value of the item with the specified key. The key does not exist. Insert the key with the specified value. Interesting. Set default. Okay, interesting. Okay. So right now, dictionary is empty. We say set default, the key hello. It will have now set that, and then it looks like it also did return the value, which in this case was hello. Yeah. So if you called it again, does it change or? No. Just returns. And it stays there. Okay. So interesting. You can only set it once, kind of? Like it sets it the first time and then it just returns it back to you after that. Okay. Set default. It's still just a regular dictionary. You could just override it like this, though. That one just returns goodbye. So it returns, yeah, returns whatever's in it. If it's empty, then it lets you set it. Set default. I'll have to remember that. So in the old code, it was just doing set default content type length connection setting from these values, but because it's set default, it can't change. So if it didn't start as an empty dictionary, for instance, if it was a dictionary that had these things in it, so really the key is that those things got added the first time because it's set default, but they need to change the next time, and it doesn't let it. Could it not just use setters? Would setters not set default, but just set with square brackets? Would that not be better for some reason? So let's print headers. Run this. First one succeeds. 83, we get valid JSON, everything's happy. Second one was also 83 and it just cuts off. First time it was this stuff only. Next time it's now this stuff also. So yeah, it just can't save, can't update those values. So their solution is use copy. Used to just be take headers if we got it, otherwise start with empty. I'll set default on them. Add them to the response down here. New one is copy, so if they passed none, then use empty. Otherwise, copy the one they passed. I guess I do like this better because that means we won't be changing headers, right? Right now, headers is external to the library, right? This is a object inside of CodePy. Truthfully, I think it makes the most sense that it should not be getting modified inside of here to have content length and other stuff on it anyway. In this case, it wouldn't matter too much, I don't think, but like, I could imagine a scenario where, this existed as like a value in your dictionary and then all of a sudden it just gets overridden and you don't understand why. So when I was saying, is there a reason not to just use the square brackets? I think that's it, I guess, is that you could just keep headers here and use square brackets, but it's gonna overwrite all of these. And realistically, I think it does make more sense that when the code's like this dictionary here should just be the same the whole time. Nothing's changing it. Nothing should be changing it. So the new way should make it to where this won't change it and this will print the same thing each time. It should always just be the values it had when it started. And I do think I like that solution better. So let's test it also. What? I don't know the number. 27. Copy that. Back to here. I'll delete the old one. The new old one. Current old one? Old current one? Old current one. First time we get 83, everything's fine. Next time we get 91, plus more stuff, everything is still fine. Because now headers, and if we look over here, headers doesn't change. Header stays the same. Our header outside, our CircuitPy dictionary, does not change. The data coming back from our server, those headers change, yes, which is good. That's what we want, in fact. These need to be changing. Specifically, length needs to be changing. Although content type should be allowed to change as well, right? Maybe you return JSON the first time and then something different the next time? Maybe? Maybe if you had an error? I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. That one's maybe not. If your API changes what it returns, that's probably not the best. But it could happen. Do it again just for good measure. So we got a nice big old one, and we are continuing to go up now. Content length. I think we're good there. Seems good to me. Capitalization. The issue. So I'm assuming they meant to put back to 26 case. But it was a side effect of overwriting. West. I mean, I do think we should probably be consistent, but I don't know that it shouldn't matter. Should we be consistent? I mean, I think overall the user should keep the values that they gave it. So if the protocol doesn't care whether it's upper or lowercase, then the user should just get the ones they put in, as long as they are otherwise valid. And it should stay the same. I guess I'm not sure. Consistent, would it be the request though? Request.headers? Or what we're saying it would be consistent to or not though is the thing. I see. For instance, connection is lowercase, the key. Okay. Values should be accessed in their lowercase. So I think the difference, the reason I think we probably don't want to try to enforce it to be consistent in this case, which would mean using lowercase ones for like here as well. Like you might have a client that is expecting this to be the exact thing. So the client might not allow lowercase. The protocol does, but you could have code that doesn't handle it. So we think we want to let people do it that way if that's how they want to do it. If anything, I would say it'd be nice if we could eventually change the change this what I will call a restriction. I don't know if it's really restrictive that much, but like ultimately it might be nice if you could access those as literally whatever they are, maybe. But then it gets weird if there's two of them. I don't know. It's not that big of a deal. I think we want to keep these though, because I think users should be allowed to send whatever case they want as long as the protocol is fine with it. Well, this is interesting. It shows a commit. Oh, that references the issue. Oh, I see. Oh, in the commit message. Interesting. I used to seeing commits on the issue page. Yeah. Either way, to the extent we want to consider it, I think it'd be a separate deal anyway. It's not actually. I do agree with whichever user said it, that it's not. The case thing came up in the issue, yeah, this year, but the true root cause, or if nothing else, the true root cause of what this PR is addressing is the fact that the dictionary gets overwritten after you pass it in. And then that, along with the fact that it uses set default, is actually also making it so that it can't update itself on subsequent requests. And the PR solves both of those things by using a new dictionary each time. User's dictionary no longer gets edited, and we always start with a copy if they gave us one. Therefore, we don't have those things in it unless the user put them in there. So I guess now the thing is you could break it by doing this, I guess. If you did actually have this here, I don't know what it's supposed to be. Is it just a number? If you did actually have this here, now it would be broken? Maybe? Yes? I think? Doesn't have any stuff in it. I chose a number so small that it didn't even get to the body, really. Let's try like 70. Still might not be enough. Three. Yeah, there's, okay, content type, and then it has like more stuff. So, oh, it's called it type. Content type 70. Might not be a valid MIME type. Length is what I was trying to do, so I guess you could also break it that way, but this is how I was actually intending to break it, I think. So you could say length 70, and this just now cuts off. We had the same problem before, but now it's caused by the fact the user put this in. Which I think is okay. Like, I don't know. If user wants to override content length, they should make sure to calculate it correctly. Stripey cat win. Oh. First. I might be on beta 4 still. Should update that. Go. Results on it? Oh. Right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Awesome. Thanks to Spavlot for this. I'm contributor. Do the release 1.0 since a rewrite. It's probably where it got changed to a library, a folder, I mean. So we'll do 1.0.1 because it has the same APIs, doesn't have any new features, it just has a fix for content length not being able to be updated. Well, any of the headers not being able to be updated, but content length, the most consequential one. Not the best for copying. New one is 0.1. Don't override headers dictionary. Say headers fix, maybe? Headers fix. To response constructor. Okay. So if your server returns the same thing every time, then this doesn't matter to you. But if it changes, then this will be a fix that you definitely need. There's pieces. Spot. Okay. It's the main PR that I had in mind. Look into. I did others this morning. Anything else that's relatively. I looked into this one this morning. See if I got a response. It's only a few hours ago, but okay. Good catch. Expected, although the behavior is undesired and not matching CPython, stems from the difference to CPython that a concept has the concept of last resort. Python log in a stream handler is automatically added in get logger, and no distinction is made in this default logger and the logger added via add loggers. This to change somewhat. New changes, new behavior. Okay, so we can. I'll check back in on this. This is one I looked at this morning. It wasn't on stream, so nobody watching would have any background on this probably. But I did check into this. I tried it out this morning and was looking at it and asking some questions about it. So I will try this one again. Logging, I actually do still have it open. I will need to update the branch, which so the thing is, I can't just pull these branches that come from GHPR checkout, they're not pullable, but I think I can just checkout it again and it will update. Although I do have to know the number. I can just, so we're already on this branch, but I think we just run this again and it updates. So how it does that, or if there's a way I could make it update differently, but that for now. The changes real quick, just take a peek at what's going on there. So handler, okay, so it gets created as variable, whereas it used to just get added inside of add handler or add logger. Has handlers. Default is none. Has handlers. Emitted no handler warning. Has no handlers. Default is none. Default handler. And then this is the actual example. which we've changed up. It says this should produce an error output. This should produce now info. This has changed it up a bit, and it goes default handler info message, cert. As handlers? Produce an error via stream handler. Bugger has handlers. One had set the level to error and then did a info and an error. Produce no output. It's the null handler. Cert null logger. They also just added a bit of extra prints. Okay. So I'll get a new simple test because I didn't, because they changed it a bit. I don't know if hopefully we won't crash from the asserts. I would hope that they wrote it in such a way where the asserts are going to be true. Whatever. Yes, sir. Uh-oh. Seen. Begin a error. Of course, I haven't updated the code yet. Maybe it's... I think if it's expected to crash on the first assert, then I think we want to take it out. Because I think our simple test, it should run all the way through. Important to make sure stuff that should be false is actually false as well, but the simple test, I think, is not the place to do that. Let's actually see if that's what's happening. It might just be like old version of library doesn't work with new version of simple test. Go in here. About press that not to like go update other files and stuff. So we got output info on the default handler. We got error on the stream handler. We got code done running. Which is I think different than the current version slightly? Mark? Maybe not actually. I think it prints the same lines. I guess the difference is this. I think beyond that, I think maybe there's no difference. I am going to try it though. I'm going to check. So we're going to go back to main real quick. Omega main. Let's get Adafruit main. Omega main is very likely out of date. Oh, shoot. There's another one like that. Oh man, I should make a script to check these. That's the second one. At least I haven't pushed anything to this one yet. All right, first of all, we're doing that. Adafruit's actually Adafruit. Okay, well, if Adafruit's actually Adafruit, then we can just use main. I should make a script to go through all my things and find those. I don't think there's any more, but I didn't think there were any, and that's the second one I found, so whatever I thought is not right, apparently. Go to main, get the main version of this simple test. So we'll put that on our device. Delete login again. Just do none of that, just delete without worrying about it. Here, copy that, put it back again one more time. This is the currently released version. It is actually different. The one difference, I guess, then is the info. We don't get any info with the currently released one. Currently released one, the first info message does not happen because the level is set to error. And this one, it's actually set to info. And, well, two things. Oh, okay. In this one, all right, let's run this one. Let's let me make sure I got this right. Uh-oh. Default handler and then stream handler. So stream handler actually behaves the same as it used to, which is that it is set to error and it therefore does not print the info. The thing is, we now have a new section which did not used to output. So we have default handler, get logger default handler, set level info, that assert, which does pass. Then we go into the version that we used to have, which actually does behave the same as it used to, save from the fact it's actually more specific now. Printing stream handler does not print info because it's set to error. Null produces no output at all. True, we don't see anything null handler get produced here. That is looking pretty good to me so far. So from a current behavior works as expected. Examples seem functional. Perspective, I feel like this is pretty good. SD card. If I use an SD card, it's kind of elaborate to check the stuff on it, right? Write a file to it and then plug it in. It takes a lot of stuff to check it. I need the right adapters, and I got to get up and plug it in and unplug it, plug it back to the device. I think let's how does this work? So file handler, log file path. So if we had a writable drive, then we might be able to just write from our device. So let's do that instead. It means we need bootpy. bootpy. So we need to put something in here. Now remember what we need to put in here. Even worse is that I know for a fact the page that we have doesn't actually... we're going to have to look at, like... It tries to pull the value from a switch, but we don't want to pull it from a switch, basically. We want to just hard code it. Inside bootpy, we need to be doing import storage. And then we need to know the right value here. This can be true or false. When value equals true, CircuitPy is read-only to CircuitPython and writable by your computer. So that is the normal state. That is what we have come to expect. When value is false, the CircuitPy drive is writable to CircuitPython and read-only to your computer. So we are going to want to do that. I don't have a switch or anything. So I'm just going to hard code it. But before I hard code it, we still want to save CodePy some more. So I'm probably going to have to switch it back and forth at least once or twice here. But I'm trying to minimize the amount of times I have to switch back. So what I think I'm going to do is inside CodePy, but I do want to make sure that my concept of letting this write to the internal storage is like sound before I actually start testing new functionality from the PR. Because I'm not 100% sure that that idea is actually going to work or intended to work. So we'll see. Let's just change print handler from being a stream handler to a file handler. And then we'll just say testlog.text. So if I save it and run it right now, it fails because it's not writable. Or it succeeds but doesn't write anything because it's not writable. No, fails because it's not writable. So theoretically, we uncomment bootpy, it's going to be setting that to false. CodePy is then going to be able to write, which means that our file handler is going to be able to write. It's going to create this file. It's going to write the error message into it, because that's the only one that is a level high enough. It's going to still print some stuff, the default one. We're going to have to use REPL to switch bootpy back. Okay, I think we're ready. Oops, uncomment that. Save it. Read only. Do you need a reset from the button? All right, CircuitPy is connected. I presume the code ran. We didn't connect quick enough to see anything happen. Testing test log. All right, looking good. So, and then we should be able to just rerun it at this point, right? If I Control-C, Control-D, this prints this stuff again. If we go back to here, this should get a second line. second line, or at least change maybe. At least change maybe? 9.992, did that change? 9.992? Let's close it. .992. Same actually. This is still counting up actually as well. Like it doesn't, can't actually edit this anymore. Maybe we will have to get an SD card one. I'm not sure, I guess, how it's supposed to behave. Is it intended that it will not add to the same file? No, this says default is append. Load. Does anything ever call close? So I'm thinking I'm not gonna be able to save this. I'm thinking something needs to do this. Although it needs to do it down here. Because if nothing ever flushes and closes the file, then stuff could be written but not in the file yet, not like readable to other programs yet. My suspicion is maybe those are getting lost to the ether. It is odd that we got anything the first time. I'm not entirely sure why we would have gotten stuff the first time and not subsequent ones, but that's kind of my guess, is maybe because we haven't called close that our stuff is not actually getting written. And so yeah, I'm not going to be able to save this. I don't know, this actually, for some reason, didn't give me the warning, which I kind of expected. All right, we'll just go to REPL. Or to OS. There's rename, right? Rename. Rename. os.rename. boot.py. Not boot.py. A good trick if you ever get stuck with a boot.py that you don't want, right? But you have REPL access, is you can just go in there, rename it. So my editor here, my guess is it will be out of date or whatever if I might need to like make it refresh or something, but I don't know, actually that still says boot. I have not boot also though. Do boot pies? Oh, I think PyCharm's lying to us here. Though, because this says boot pie here. It says not boot. But it's underscore. Did I say under? Oh, I did no underscore. Interesting. That seemed like it succeeded though. All right, well, you can tell I've done this before. There's the boot pie from last time we did this. Not entirely sure. Did I not boot that pie? Which file or directory? Not telling us the right files. Lister. I don't know. I don't want to read through this big compacted list to try to find boot pie or not. I'm just going to restart it with the button to start with. Maybe it changed the file, but for whatever reason, the PC has a cached one or something. I restarted it with the button. Yeah, I think our PC maybe just had a cached one. We have no more boot there. Down here, we'll have now not boot with no space, and that's the one that we just did today. Of course, you can see, like I said, this is a thing I did in the past on this same device. But so now this fails with read-only file system. So that makes sense. I guess we kind of have to decide. We want to make one more attempt with a close, or do we want to just go straight into the multi-handler? I think I'll do one more attempt with the close. So that's test log text. Let's say after we do these two things, then we go print handler, which is actually file handler. Tell anybody, it's fine. Dot close. Save this. It still fails because our file system's not writable. We're gonna go put our boot pie back. By just renaming not boot back to boot. Reset button. Reconnected. There we go. This now has multiple things in it. You know what though? I bet we actually just had the same exact problem going on. I bet this was writing the whole time. Our PC was not letting us see it because it was cached or whatever, right? If I had used the reset button, that would have made it show me the current state of the files, which would have included the new things. So if I just... This is from 4? If I just let this rerun a few times... It doesn't want to rerun because it says read only. It did do boot pie. Pie's gone. Row. Boot here is gone. All right, here's what I'm gonna do is, first of all, we're gonna back this up because I probably shouldn't be messing with it. This is my finless tether Pinless feather? Pinless feather TFT. I have one with pins that's on the timestamper that I use for the meeting. All right, backup of all of this. I'm just gonna reset it with the reset button again. I don't trust what I'm seeing IDE as far as what's in these files. Like bootpy, not necessarily convinced bootpy is empty. The log, I think, will probably have more than 4 entries now. It's weird that we were getting that error, though. If bootpy is not empty, then I don't have a good... bootpy looks pretty empty here. It ended up getting that error. We have 4 things in there. Somehow bootpy got, like, written to be empty. Not sure. Odd. Not boot. This is kind of a risky run, though, if you are letting your thing be writable to itself, like... allowing CircuitPython to write to itself means that, like, much more easily able to become corrupted accidentally, or accidentally overwrite files with empty things or whatever, right? I guess is somehow one of my resets happened at just the wrong time and it caused bootpy to end up getting erased for one reason or another. I don't know the specifics behind it, but that's kind of my guess, is that how that basically caused it. So interestingly, this time we don't. Disconnect? Reconnect? I have different stuff on the screen. The screen, it actually looks pretty much successful. It's got a 5th one of those at a newer time, lower time. I think this is gone. Is that gonna let me out? Stuck now. Oh, maybe I did that Control S thing? I don't know. We're on 1 somehow now. Got treated as a different device just long enough to switch over to 1. So then now it writes, and I don't know, maybe this won't show us. I think maybe this doesn't show us. But I'm just in REPL. I'm just going to press the reset button on the device, which is going to make the whole thing restart here. It's going to come right back, run again, and I think now it will show us the 6th line in that file, perhaps even the 7th, because it's going to also write another one probably. Yeah. There's our one from last time that it didn't show us, but now it does. I think it's writing them, we just can't see them until after it, like, refreshes, I'll say, reconnects to the PC. I have no idea if that's my PC keeping the cache. I would assume so. Or PyCharm, maybe. But I don't know. So the real test, the true test, which we will need to be able to edit CodePy in order to do, is to have multiple handlers, which is what this PR was for. So I'm going to actually go back to REPL one more time and make bootpy not bootpy, and then we'll do both the print handler and the file handler at once. Right now we are disconnected. My guess is we went back to ACM 0, huh? Yeah. Alright, OS. Rename. Boot.py. Not boot.py. Done. There. Restart with the button. Alright, should be just failing now because of not writable file system. Files close again, so I'll reopen. We could probably just close these two. So we want to actually have the original print handler, but also now a file handler. And I'll say test new log.txt, just so we have a different file to write to this time. Logger.add handler, we will add both. I will keep the close. I don't know if it matters for sure, but call it superstition. I've had trouble in the past not calling flush after writing to files now. Trouble I had was in a whole different programming language on a whole different kind of computer in a whole different context, but ever since I am superstitious about making sure to call flush on my things that are trying to write files, and this situation it feels like we should be, so I've added it. I don't actually know. We're not actually testing it the same way it was written anyway, because we're not using the SD card. File handler. I think we don't need anything else. We just add the two handlers there. Duplicated, yeah, that's whatever, I don't know. It's not really duplicated. It is, it's probably just from another file. That's basically the same actual script. So this time output will be a little bit more. We will have the info and the error. We'll see the error get printed, and then ideally we'll also see that same error show up in the file. So I'll save this. It just fails again because non-readable file system. Which line does it fail on? Does it fail when you add the handler? When you create the handler. We could, I don't know, I mean, we could try catch this, I guess. End of the day, it doesn't matter too much. We just want to go find our not boot, change that back to boot. Not to be confused with not underscore boot, which is actually pretty much the same thing. So really be that bad if you got them confused, I guess. Save that, and we will have to reset button, restart, because that's what makes it notice the new boot pie. Nope, okay, I was gonna say I might have switched back to ACM1. It's connected. I can actually see the log message on the screen. Oh, apparently you just gotta talk about it. Read-only file system. So I'm guessing our boot pie maybe got jacked again somehow. Looks like we don't have a boot. And instead do still have a not boot. Does still have this stuff in it. Try that again. Bye. I guess speaking of flush and all that stuff, why don't I do a disconnect like this? Then we'll do a power button restart. I mean a reset button restart on the microcontroller. Might come back as ACM1. Yeah, I see stuff happening. I think I saw the lugs go by. I'm not positive, so let's look here. You have test new log. That's our new file. We we do have our error there. We, of course, didn't see it print because we didn't get connected soon enough, but theoretically, we should just be able to give it that, get our 2 prints. Theoretically, this one would be in the file as well, but we're going to keep having the same problem where we can't see the most recent version of this file until after we like reset the device again. I believe it's there at this point. I'm pretty well convinced I have an idea of how this is working now. Not like how it works, but what it's doing, how it's behaving, I should say. So we'll have 2 in there. What I'll do is we might as well just go to REPL and rename, because I'll want this to be writable eventually. So put this back how it was, os.rename. One more time, bootpy, and not bootpy. Put that back. Had luck with this last time, so I guess I'll do this kind of same thing again. Dismount that way and then reset with the button. We'll see. I think there should be 3 lines in that file when we come back up here in a second. I don't know why I have an app here. Yeah. And those are the same things that got printed, 34 and 58. Remember that. So multiple handlers are working. We got it both printed and sent to the file. Seems good. Browser were we in? This one. Right. Multiple handlers per logger. Cool. Yeah. Seems good to me. I don't have a lot of experience actually using this library, but that seems super cool. And I will say, for people interested in logging or MQTT, another really nice thing about this is this person showed an example of using an MQTT logger. So they made a custom kind of handler that actually logs via MQTT rather than like printing or to the file or anything else. Like it will send it to Adafruit.io in this case. So, no, it's not Adafruit.io. It is sending it to their own thing. I wonder though. I mean, you could send it to Adafruit.io. Maybe we'll ask them if they're interested in sharing that. I mean, I think that's super cool. I don't use MQTT too much. I haven't used it on any, quote unquote real projects. I've done a couple, a bit of tinkering here and there, learning how it works, doing reviews for PRs and things. And I played with it a little bit on, some smaller projects, but nothing like built a thing from the ground up that utilizes it centrally or anything like that. It seems like a cool way to log though. If you had an IoT device or something like that, it's remote in the field or whatever, right? In some place that's not particularly easy to access, let's say, in this case, in the field might still be inside your house somewhere, just mounted on a wall or behind a thing or whatever, just in an inconvenient place to access and plug into a computer. Being able to log to a remote thing like this, you could presumably make like an HTTP one as well that would just, you could make one that would log to like Imgur, or not Imgur, but like text pasting thing, Gist, or what's the one I'm actually trying to think of? Just Pastebin, something like Pastebin, where it's like a text storage thing. Of course, how would it, you'd have to make it notify you or something, or if it went under your account, I guess you could see it there. Anyway, it might be cool to have this kind of example. I don't know if it's specific to the MQTT server though. If it's not something that could work with Adafruit.io, then it is perhaps less likely that we would want to have the example for it. But if it's something where you could just change this to a topic that's in IO and change this to point at IO and everything still works, then that seems pretty cool. I think it'd be sweet to have that as an example. I do think we're good now, though. So thank you to Vladak for this, another first-time contributor to this library, logging library. Thanks to them. It's pretty sweet. I like the what's the word I'm looking for? I like the adaptability. It's not really quite the word I'm after anyway, truthfully. Flexibility. I like the flexibility that this offers by having multiple handlers so that you have a backup, right? Like, maybe sometimes you can look in the serial output and that's good enough, but sometimes, like we were talking about, it's inconvenient. So being able to log 2 places at once seems pretty nice. Or more, right? Even 3 or more places. You could log to as many as you want, I guess, now. Let's ask it another way. Let's say, do you know if your MQTT handler could work with Adafruit.io as the back end server instead of a custom one? Or is there some specific behavior in your server that allows that work? If it's possible, that with Adafruit.io, I'd be in favor of sharing that as an additional example in this repo. You're open to that idea. See that being particularly useful for projects that are inconvenient to access locations. The new simple test is nice as well. And labels to make it more clear what's happening and class behaves with different possible inputs. Okay. Change requested, I think, was me. Oh, no, TechDirk did change requested. Fail. I think it was changed. Allow exceptions to propagate. Should it be getting rid of a except? Yeah. That's resolved already. And that was the only change request. Yeah. I think it looks good here. That will make the release. And then I think I gotta run to the restroom and then come back, but then we will get into some gradient action. Try to do the Bezier. Bezier? I don't know the right way to pronounce it, but we'll try to do that last, most fanciest of the gradients from that page. Ooh, hopefully I still have that page open somewhere. Okay, so this we'll say is, I mean, this is a new feature, so it's backwards compatible. It didn't break the API. Nothing changed. Like, all your code, if you had code that used this before, should still just work the same. But now you actually have a new possible way to use it, which is adding two handlers. So that sounds like a middle number bump to me. So we'll go 5.1.0. 5.1.0. 5.1.0. Multiple handlers. This release allows the use of multiple handlers on a logger. Thank you. Fladak. 5.1.0, 5.0.1. 1.0 is definitely newer. Okay. I will be back, and then I will play with some gradients. Actually, 1 second before I go, let me see if I can find the page I was taking stuff the other day. Yeah, this is the one. Okay, I'll be back in a minute. We'll carry on with this stuff. Okay, get the camera as well. though. I don't know if that's gonna like wash me out or something. Not too bad. Okay. So this is continuing where I left off on, it would have been Saturdays last time I worked on this on stream. So if you didn't catch that and what I'm about to work on ends up being interesting to you and you want to see the beginning of it, you can watch the VOD from Saturday a few days ago, the 10th, I guess it would be. What I'm working on right now specifically is this Bezier gradient. What is a Bezier gradient? I don't know. Fancier gradient than a polylinear. So polylinear, this is the last one we did. And actually, you know, before I jump straight into the Bezier one, I want to try to change the polylinear. 146. I'm gonna save a timestamp randomly and like maybe I will hopefully remember to put timestamp in the description. I'm gonna try. Let me say I need to try to be better about putting useful timestamps in my descriptions. I could be better. I could be better. That's something I should strive for in the new year, if nothing else. But I will try to start right now by saving a timestamp, and I can actually put this as a link for when I start working on. So we did polylinear last time. The way polylinear works makes it so that you don't always get the target number you asked for. So you give it a list of colors and you tell it, I would like to generate a palette with, 10 colors inside of it, right? Or whatever number you want. It gives you back a palette, but it might not have 10 in it. It might be a little bit less. It might be 9, it might be 7. It depends on the input colors, mostly. It'll always be less, but it might not be exact. So it'd be nice if it could be exact. I'll be honest. It'd be nice if it could be exact. And I don't see why it can't be exact, because I think we could just like ask for in out +1 right here, and then I think it will be back to being exact. So we got to find out. Maybe it's not that simple, but I was thinking about this the other day after I did it, yesterday sometime. I did it on Saturday. I was thinking about this yesterday, and I was like, couldn't we just do +1 for the size of those additional gradients that make up our polylinear? Because we're cutting one off of it to avoid the duplicates, like this says. But, let's say we wanted 10. Let's say, do we want to do 10? Yeah, I guess let's say 10. Let's say we wanted 10 and we gave it 2 input colors. So in out became 5. Because 10 over 2 is 5, because we had 2 input colors. So the size of this one actually was 5. But then this one here, it gets a gradient, a linear, that's size 5, in out again. But then it cuts the first one off, because the first one is actually the same as the last one, which is already inside of gradient dictionary. Can we not just go +1 here, though? And then this one will be 6, but we'll still cut the first one off. So we won't have the duplicate, but we'll have the remaining, what is now 5. That still end on color 2. I think we can, so we're going to try that first. So let's get the code from this. And I will turn the camera because this is basically... I won't say the entire point of it is to draw onto the screen. Drawing on the screen is the way that I am outputting the gradient. And the whole point of it is to be able to make gradients. Drawing on the screen is one thing you could do with a gradient. I actually think maybe we could use gradients with LED animation. LED animation has some that take colors. I wonder if we could make them take gradients. And then it would like transition from one color to the other as it goes over time. Sounds kind of fun to me. What is... let me start up a... Okay, what is that on? It's 144, which is there. Probably crashes the first time. Ah, it's only tapped into a thing. Let's go back, discard changes. Alright, it's pretty good for now. Matter too much. Crumbs on there. Cat hairs. Whoa. An example, which was... Maybe? Count? Oh, yeah. It's the last one we left with. Do we want to save multi-file? Multi-handler? Logger, multi-handler? Okay, that's what this one makes. Let's back it way off, though, from a practicality standpoint. Let's just go back down to 10. And let's keep it back down to 2 colors only. We will keep that one. Be able to go back to it. So now we have red to green. I want blue instead. That's good. So let's run that. That should give us only 10 different colors, so probably we're going to be seeing some banding of red to green. Blue, I mean, yeah. Exactly what we get. We kind of transition through purple in the middle there, but we do have pretty well-defined vertical bands. And then, did we get 9 colors or 10 colors? Let's print length of colors instead of just relying on ourselves to count it right, even though we could probably count it right. Ah. This is not the REPL. You cannot just do a thing. Make it print. It does have 10, actually. So is it when we introduced the third color? Is that when we ended up down to 9? You indeed have 10. Let's try red, blue, and then green. Ah, yeah, it's shorter this time. Okay, so I think I had the right concept, but didn't quite have the math right for the case of 5/2. But now we have only 9. This is also to do with how it divides, right? Which maybe means it's not as easier to solve as I thought. Where's int? Have we don't need this comment anymore. This was old. So we passed in 10. 10.0 over the length of colors minus 1. This time I passed in colors as 3. 3 minus 1 is 2. 10 over 2 is 5. 5 what? Yes, okay. This is the same mistake I made the other day, which is that I'm thinking of 3 colors as, I guess, like 3 halves. Like, intuitively, I know it doesn't have 3 halves inside of it, but I'm thinking of it as 3 sections, when really it's 2 sections. It's 3 divider lines. It's 3 divider lines, 2 sections. Which is where our 2 5s come from, and this is the case that I was actually thinking of before. But I was just off the same way as I was last time. So in this case, we should basically have 5 colors that gradient from red to blue all the way, and then 5 more colors that gradient from blue to green. But what happened is these 2 in the middle, the last one of the first set of 5 and the first one of the next set of 5, are actually the same color. They're just blue. Straight blue. Well, in our case, they're blue. They're whatever color you gave it as your second color. Our 2 sections are our 5 colors. We are cutting the 1 off of our second section of 5, which is getting us down to 4, which is why we end up with 9. Do we ever run over? I guess one reason not to do this would be like, do we run over? There's probably a case where we run over. So this one does have 10. I kind of think that it breaks now, though, if you... We had 2, for instance. Is that really what's... Oh, index out of range? What is that? 28. Yeah, we got index out of range. We got 11. Can't do that. Somehow it could know, though. Okay, well, let's backburner that for now and work on the Bezier gradient. Maybe the Bezier gradient reduces the need for this to work better anyway. You basically need to know if it's divided to a whole number, but that's not true though, right? Because when we had 2 colors, it divides to a whole number because it's 10 over 1. When we have 3 colors, it also divides to a whole number because it's 10 over 2. It's only when we get to 4 colors that it actually doesn't divide to a whole number. So when do we need to do the... How would we know that we need to do the plus ones? Reliably. It's just the number of colors. As the number of colors goes up, basically. Any colors except for... Any colors beyond 2. They ask for 2 colors, then don't do the plus 1. And if they ask for any number greater than 2, then do the plus 1. This is a weird way to write it, but just to see if that works. If length, no, not length of colors. Length of n. N is greater than 2. And use a plus 1. But if it's not, then don't. The case of 2 colors won't change. The case of 3 colors is the first one that does. Everyone after that does as well. Except it still fails. And did I make the if statement wrong? No. Okay. It's not supposed to be in. It is supposed to be colors. Yeah, I was... Where n is 10. We're asking for 10. That's not what we care about. Input colors. It's the count of the input colors. What drives this? Okay, there we go. Now we're back to 10. Asked for 10, we got 10. We gave it 2 colors. Gradient. Boom. Okay. Give it 3 colors. Got 10 again. And so, like, technically, you know, I don't know if we're still linear or whatever at this point. Like, I don't know the right way to word this, but technically the gradient between colors 1 and 2 is wider. It has one additional color value crammed into it. Then from 6 to 10 in this case, or it's really 0 to 4 and 5 to 9, but because now index 5 is slightly off blue. It's slightly closer to green than it would have been without this change. Which means that the center is slightly to the left, the center colorfully rather than like numerically. Although truthfully, index 5 is the one that looks the most blue to me. Maybe I was backwards. Maybe it's further the right, or maybe this one is also to do with the fact that we asked for 10 and therefore there isn't technically a center color. I don't know. I guess I should say generally the thing is I think our fix works for making us get back the same number that we asked for, but I think that whereas before if you care about the ratios from the center to the edges, I don't think they'll be accurate. I don't think they'll work the same as they used to, I should say. So that's kind of a trade-off, is like, you can get back the number of colors you asked for, but if you care about the ratios between the colors, if that makes sense, how close the center color is to either edge, the old way has slightly different behavior with regards to that. Which is kind of where it ends up, one of the reasons why it ends up having fewer. But I think if we account for it this way, our sort of color line gets skewed a bit, but we otherwise have the right number coming back out. Oh, I only got 8 this time, actually. So now we have a few things working against us. In this case, now we actually have working against us the fact that it doesn't divide equally. We asked for 10 colors, we gave it 4. We need to add in 6 more, but we have... Well, okay, let's work out. Let's run it through the actual, what do we do with, so we gave it 4. Oh, okay. First of all, I have applied my fix wrong altogether. That is just wrongity wrong. Wrongenstein wrong right there. I'm pretty sure that's just all wrong. None of that is even close to right. This one down here, this is the one we should have been changing the whole time. Okay, now let's run this for what we'll pretend is the first time. We did only get 9, which is more than 8, but still wrong. But we're off by 1 somewhere. Maybe our problem is that our solution is actually only good for the number 3. So at 3, we do get 10. Seems like our solution doesn't work. Doesn't work when it doesn't divide evenly. So 2 gets us 10. It's making sense. That's the original behavior, so that shouldn't have. That's good. Those back. All right. So 4 gave us 9. So when we had 4, we did what? We said original in out is 10 over 4 minus 1, which is 3. 10 over 3 as an integer is just 3. So we start out with 3 colors. The next time through this loop, basically, well, the first time through this loop, I guess, but it's the second time that we're generating a gradient. We do use the +1 logic here because we gave it 4 colors. Therefore, we actually end up generating 4 instead of 3. We take our original 3, we add 4 to it. No, we will still actually be adding 3 to it because of this. So we cut the first one off. So we take our 4 that we've now generated, we cut the first one off, we add 3 of them. So now we're up to 6 in our main list. We loop again. Same thing happens again. We generate 4, we add only 3 of them. We're now up to 9, and we're out of loops. And in that case, I guess I think it's fine, actually, to come up with 9. Because it would have to round somewhere to get to 10. I'm curious, though, because I think is our solution worth having at all? I think it is actually an improvement, right? Because this one, yeah, see, this is 7. We actually get closer. With the old logic, you can get further away from your target. In fact, you get further away by 1 for each additional input color, I think. Like if I add another input color, we'll be down to 6. Five was worse than I thought. We dropped 2 that time. I don't know why. We dropped 2 that time. And if we have the new logic, we won't drop as many. I think with the new logic, we're guaranteed to always only be down by 1, I think, because the only time we're ever down anymore is rounding errors. And we should always round to being off by 1 or less. It says confidently. Nope. Okay, so actually we're off by 8 here. So again, it's better. It's not quite still what I expected, honestly. We're basically still just... It's basically the bigger the list of colors you pass it, the more messed up it gets. Either way. And this way it gets maybe slightly less messed up than the original way. So now we're back to 10, though. Now we made it all the way back to a full count. I'm curious on this one. Original way. 6. So overall, I think the new logic is better than the old logic. It tends to be off by less. There are some numbers where it's not off at all with the new logic, where it was with the old. There are looking like lots of numbers where it is off by a smaller margin with the new logic. But there are definitely still cases where it is off, and even cases where it's off by more than 1. Because I did have the 8. Not entirely sure why we ended up with 8, but we could step through the math, probably get there, but I don't think it's that important that I understand the full amount of the math, really. And the truth is, this is kind of an extreme example. Like, most likely somebody would not be wanting a gradient that has this many input colors and so few output colors, right? We're kind of really pushing an extreme usage of it in an attempt to test it. But it is better, I think, so I'll leave it. And then we'll look at Bezier. Fact. This one's a little bit more. This is a non-linear gradient, Bezier interpolation. I will leave the denser mathematical description of Bezier curves to Wikipedia and this guy's awesome PDF. They can easily be used to provide some smooth gradients through various control colors corresponding to Bezier control points. To implement Bezier gradients in Python, I took advantage of the following polynomial notation for n-degree Bezier curves through n+1 control colors. This stuff. And the math is definitely beyond me. I've heard of Bezier curves. I've drawn them this way. I used to like drawing this kind of stuff. I want to make a program that draws these. I used to really enjoy drawing these as a kid in elementary school. There was a book that had a bunch of plans for different cool ones in the library. I used to check that book out all the time. This would be fun to make a program, especially to make these rainbow ones, honestly. Those look pretty nice. That's neither here nor there, though. Yeah, and I definitely polynomial form. Okay, so this is, I think, what the page was talking about. This is the version of this thing we're using. If the PDF, it's edu. I don't know if it's, seems like it's not actually alive anymore, unfortunately. Guessing. Fortunately, we won't be able to get that one, but could maybe try searching back up by byu.edu. Try to figure it out by, try to find a different link to it somewhere, but yeah, problem loading. I think it's failed, it's probably gone. That's right, because in truth, I'm definitely not going to be understanding all the math, no matter how good that PDF is, most likely. It can be expected that, here we go, actually, this is where we're at. Python implementation of this took the following form, with a helper function for the Bernstein coefficient. Bernstein coefficient, huh? Also chose to memoize the factorial function heard of, and I feel like I knew the of once, but in memoize is an optimization used primarily to speed up storing the results of expansion function calls, returning the cached result when it occurs again. Okay, so we it's caching. Yeah, basically it's just building a little cache of all of the ones you give it, right? You give it a number, it checks its cache. If it's already in the cache, it returns it to you. If it's not already in the cache, it computes the factorial, stores it in the cache, and then returns it to you. So the second time you call it with the same number, it's now quicker because it doesn't have to compute it. It just looks it up. Okay. Be expected that inputs will be consistently similar. due to its range consisting of integers from 0 to 255 and its recursive implementation. We'll have to see about memory. I don't know how much memory this will take. We might not be able to make that trade-off on the microcontroller. We might not have enough memory to store all of it, depending on how much it takes. So in that case, we'd have to undo that caching and just pay the time price, basically. That's something to keep in mind. There's our Bernstein and our factorials, so we're going to be needing both of those probably. These we can probably, hopefully, just use unedited. I don't think these don't really do anything other than math. So they're not really concerned with the format of the output or the dictionaries or the tuples or hexes or strings or any of those different stuff like we dealt with last time. Now this function, though, probably will be giving us those other types, those dictionaries and things. So in this case, Bezier gradient takes colors, takes in out equals 100 by default, returns a gradient dictionary using a given list of colors as control points. Dictionary also contains control colors / points. So this has an inner function interp. Define an interpolation function for this specific curve. What is this specific curve? What is the curve? The curve is somehow defined by the colors that have been inputted? Specific curve. I think it must be somehow that's like... That's what that means. Like we're generating a curve based on the input colors, and this is defining a function that behaves a certain way based on that curve. And then obviously if the input colors change, then this would have to change since it's based on that. So why it's declared inside of here? It's kind of the best understanding I have of it. May or may not be accurate, but it's what we got to work with. After that's defined, we just say gradient equals list Bezier interp for t in range in out, and then it is making this dictionary. You might be able. Well, what is interp? Is this? Does anything call linear, or does it rely on the others, or no? Doesn't seem like it relies on the other ones, actually. So we might not actually have nearly as much formatting weirdness to get through with this one. Like, it's definitely going to be this at the end, but if we just... We might be able to just return this, or just return gradient, maybe. We'll have to see what's in there. Start with just two, maybe. Red, blue. Go back to the basics. Give it color count. int isn't subscriptable. Maybe we do have some formatting. What's that, 145? X to RGB. Ah, right. Our version... yeah. Okay, so the thing is that... their version is expecting a string? Oh, well, we actually have two of those, right? It's not ideal. Gradient original. That's where our... this looks the same though, right? So I do think maybe this is expecting a string. We are not giving it currently, so... we could... just for the sake of testing to see what it's going to output. Object isn't subscriptable. Change out. Actually, okay, duh. 158, it's actually into here. Isn't subscriptable. So either out or vector, one of the two, is not subscriptable. One of the two is a map, and maps are not subscriptable. Vector is in the loop, and out list. Vector would be in summands. Type of vector. Map. Okay, vector is a map. Map isn't subscriptable. My guess is that that's probably not true in CPython, right? I don't know how you make a map in CPython. Class map. This map function. Need the class map. Map object. Doesn't seem like it's possible in CPython either. Maybe this was written for an older version of CPython where it worked differently. Fortunately, we'll have to like slightly better understand what it's actually doing to be able to fix this one, I think. Fortunately, though, I gotta run to the restroom real quick, so I'll be back. I don't know how much longer I will go either. I may be packing it in before. We don't have. I guess I did comment that one out. I may be wrapping it up before too long, but I'll come back and work on this a little bit more still. Okay. It's actually a good thing that we are getting the same results in CPython at least. This relies on this, which we don't have also. So just end up having to put more things back. Okay. Should not, at least it should run when it runs all the way through. Yeah, all right, I'll be back in just a second. Glows back. So I guess the problem map, I assume it was. Must have been popular. It must have been possible at some point, right? PyCharm knows. Map. Sumins is a list that contains two maps. I suppose makes sense because it uses this, what do they call this? I forget already again. Expansion? I don't think that's right, but it's making one of these however many times this list tells it to. So it's making, in this case, a map, and the list is probably telling it to go 2 times in this case, and so we're ending up with 2 maps. We just get lucky, and if we search for this, we find something that's like Python 2 or whatever used to do this, and you can't anymore, and now here's how you do it. Getting a map, return a list. Python 3. Are you using Python 3? Okay. In Python 3, map returns. Yeah. Okay. Iterable object, not subscriptable. Okay. Comprehensions. That's the thing I was trying to just think of the name for. Need to call list map. So this was probably written for Python 2, I guess. Which is interesting. We're taking code written for Python 2 on the PC and adapting it to run on CircuitPython on a microcontroller. It's a fork of MicroPython, which itself is a different implementation of Python altogether. It's fascinating that like all these things can agree on enough stuff to make that actually work. Even across, I mean, we're having to adapt it some, so like it didn't just work out of the box, but like I don't know the math behind it, and I was still able to adapt it, thus far, at least. I have confidence we'll get through this too. I think I mean, the lowest hanging fruit is we can just say list vector like this. You know, I don't know. It's probably not very efficient. So we're inside of a double list here. You know, not double list, but double for loop. You know, so we're doing it 3 times however many things are in this, and it multiplies. Maybe we should do, maybe we should go vector list here. And now we're actually doing this like 3 times less or whatever. I need vector type. We don't really need, rather. We print summands. Let's get. Oh, we didn't print it. So it didn't crash though. That's a good sign. Okay, we got colors. They are. What is that about? Why would green be 0? Why do these not have 3? Oh, okay. I'm with it. Okay, yes, these are. This is one list of 2 colors. These are 3 lists of 2 color components, either blue, green, or red each. But it still represents 2 colors. This does not represent a color by itself, and then this a color by itself. No, this represents the blue value of 2 colors. This represents the green value of 2 colors. This represents the red value of 2 colors. Those are the actual 2 colors. These look like the outputs which is what we really want. So that is under gradient. So let's just get rid of all this. We're not going to do any of that. We're going to return gradient by itself, maybe? That. Okay, gradient is a list of, I'll call them tuples. They're actually lists, but for all intents and purposes, they work like tuples of colors. They're RGB color values. So I do want, I do think it would be nice to have them be hex, which is what we did with the other ones. And we're actually really close. We would just need to call one of our functions tuple to hex. Let's see if we can figure this out. I guess this is returning the tuple, so I think. Yes. I have no idea if that's right. Yeah, I have no idea if that's right. Let's check the count also. That's actually one of the things too. If Bezier 1 like always outputs the right number, then maybe it's way less important to try to fix the polylinear one, but you do get different colors. I do question, like, this color seems pretty different than this color, though. I don't know. It's going to be looking like... Questioning. Oh. I guess this is here, though, right? The middle. Interesting. Starts with black, too. Okay, let's try it. What does it look like? This color actually returns the same kind of thing. We'll still need to fix it to take different ones of these, but for now, I'll leave it. It's no longer colors, though. You know what I'll do, actually, is... Interesting. Okay, so we gave it red and blue. What we got back is a gradient from black to pink. So it goes from no light up to the exact combination of the two colors. Result of this more technical gradient calculation is a smoother range. It's in 3 color control colors. Maybe it doesn't like having only 2. Maybe it doesn't like having 2. Maybe 2 is a special case or something. Because, I mean, it looks like from this diagram, it looks like 1 color, 2 color at the other end, 3 color here. Seems like maybe 3 might be how it works. So let's say red, blue, green, I guess. You know what to expect from it visually. It is not the fastest thing. None of these really are that fast. Ooh. We're actually just printing this twice now. All right, so it looks, like right here, it looks blue. This is actually, I think, a reflection of this thing or something. I don't actually know where the blue is coming from, but to the naked eye, it's black. It's black to gray to white. It's actually technically still giving us the same thing, which is that we're getting a fade up from black to the combination of all of these, which is now white because we have full channels of all three. Can we find the colors they use? I guess they would have done 100, I think, also instead of 10. Roll points? Unclear too, though. I mean, this just has 2 lines. Maybe this is not a control point? But theirs does not always go from black. Output I'm seeing seems to be always going from black. I have 2 Bernsteins for some reason. Colors as control points. Maybe I'm not guessing I'm not fully understanding the definition of control. Thinking of control, but it actually seems like. So and more like foundation. Oh, Bezier curve. What's it called? What we're expected to get back. Basically, I think I'm not understanding the inputs. How do I find a good resource, generally speaking? Your relation gradients, though. Pretty much the same thing, just darker. What we did is take control points. How do control points work? Let's look for if I could find a different implementation and we could feed it colors. See what we get out. Gradient, radial gradient, radial. Not having curved gradient, still just linear. Radial, except they're describing the shape that it takes on 2D. +1. Interesting to look at the size of the cache. I wish we could. We weren't supposed to throw away the control colors? This one, maybe the gradient doesn't contain the control. Gradient calculation is a smoother range. Minimum noticeable Bezier needs 3 control points. Okay. Control points. Imagine one at the start, one at the end, and a third that pulls the line. Okay. So that does track with how this does appear visually. So they kind of have pink, lime green, teal. Try to get something like that, I guess. The control point, would this one be, I guess, the center one? So let's say teal. What do I do for lime green? Should I just give it A's, maybe? Teal acts as the bias color. How's it going, Kiyoshi? I don't know if you're actually watching. Or if you're looking for a showtime for this, there's no showtime for this one. I just am here streaming. But not a pre-planned show, I should say. Just was popped on the stream a little bit ago. I mean, green, full green is pretty lime, I guess. Somehow we're ending up with black. I think maybe that something's wrong. I think it doesn't. I think we're not getting out the colors that are intended. I'd be curious to see. I would love if we could find out. If we assume that these functions were all working, I would love to know what the 3 values they passed here were. And it'd be nice to be able to get the same stuff. Should we ask for more? Maybe it's also mad about only asking for 10. Of course, if we ask for 100... Okay, let's do 100 here. Maybe that's it. Maybe it also doesn't work with too few. Oh, interesting. That... Weird. Okay, so that fades like up from black to teal, but then just hard cuts to like a dull red. Values are in the graph. Oh, I see. I'd love to be able to read the values as numbers. Oh. This is not the code. I mean, it is the code that generated this, but not really. It's a function that generated this, and it got past color dictionary, which came from the output of this. We kind of just have to look. So it's basically like... $200-ish red, 250 green, 150-ish blue, maybe 50-ish red. And then 200-ish blue. We need 3 colors for each of these. Values are in the graph. 300, 0. And maybe 300 is too high though, I think, right? 200 probably. That one's just 200, I think, here. That's the... Started on that side. Maybe you didn't though. It's 200 too though, maybe. Gradient dictionary. arbitrary degree. Now we just have 2 of those chunks at the end. I think we aren't getting the right output. I'm guessing probably something else changed about the way some of this stuff is processed. That is leading to it coming up with a different answer than it, I guess, probably would have back in Python 2 days when this ran, because we already know that some part of this was not 3ified out. Well, a minute. Out. That's where our black comes from. It feels like this is probably where our black comes from. Oh my. Go one for each. These do go. These are going over. Not color value? Super confused by those being. Not though. They're not colors though. They're I don't know what they are. Something to do with the points on the curve or something. You do end up getting a lot of zeros here. You know what it looks like? We have, these are just repeated. 3 zeros, 3 zeros. Oh no, we actually have 5 zeros. Well, we have 8 total. Which is kind of odd actually, but I was kind of thinking we had 9, but we have 3 of these. We have 3 of these. We have only 2 of these. Okay, well, I was just trying to find patterns, I guess, and there are some sort of, but not all the way. Some of these repeat, some of them don't. I'm gonna stick with 100. I feel like we're better off going for small ones first, but then I also wonder, is there like something about the algorithm that doesn't like the small ones? Is it using one of our other functions that we changed? Maybe that's, maybe one of the function, maybe it's trying to use one of the ones we changed. But did we though? Because we had hex to tuple. It doesn't use linear gradient. We didn't change this. We do have 2 of them again though. No, we don't. No, we don't. This one's the opposite one. Did we change this? No, it's still output strings. Okay. So for one thing, let's go back to outputting the actual dictionary, which is going to break our code over here. Let's not do this anymore. Try follow. It's broken. I do feel myself losing steam though, so this we called color dict. I'd color dict at 120. It tried to do list comprehension. Int. Inside RGB to hex, it also has list comprehension at 12. Inside RGB. Like, I have no idea at this point what is what. Oh, I tupled a hex, that's right. Yeah, I don't know how much more I got in me tonight. Oh, nope, not that. That's there. Been working on no, I have not been working on gradients the whole time. I started gradients at around 1 hour 46 minutes into the stream, which we are now at what? Almost 3 hours. So about an hour and 15 minutes or so on gradients. True. It is still a fair amount of gradients. And unfortunately, not a whole lot of progress to show for it beyond like trying to come to some understanding, or beyond maybe having one that I think doesn't work, which, you know, sometimes having a thing that you think doesn't work is still progress, but it's not the most fun progress in the world, certainly. Well, I shouldn't say either no progress. For a while, probably 30 minutes or so, I worked on a better version of the polylinear to try to make it not end up with like as shortchanged, because sometimes you ask for 10 and it gives you like 7 or 6 or something, and so I made that a bit better. It's still not perfect, but it's a bit better. So these are the colors that outputted. No, we didn't. Where's our colors from our Bezier? It's not printing anymore. I see, right. We took this away. Okay. These are our Bezier colors. And yeah, gradient hex definitely starts at black and kind of ramps up from there. And even if you take these colors here, we definitely start with black. So it's not looking like there's any difference between these ones versus the individual value R1. Okay, that's back to how it behaved originally. Knowing how not to do something is useful. Yeah. Yep. I'm suspecting there's probably just some other thing that used to evaluate a certain way in Python that no longer does, that is causing this to ultimately be different than how it worked initially. But it doesn't help that I don't. Doesn't help that we necessarily know the right inputs to get the right outputs. We could approximate these ones and put them in, and it is maybe worth a try. But what I've seen is, so far, every time, no matter what inputs I put, I'm always fading from black, which is conspicuously absent in their gradient. So I think that we're just not even generating the colors correctly. I think somehow and I don't know what to point to, but like, lambda or map or the way comprehensions work or some little specific detail about how something evaluates, I'm guessing is different now. I'm not sure why the black though. Let's try to look at how we start building this. I'm definitely not going to grok all of the way it works. Certainly not in one sitting, and definitely not in this sitting, because I am about to wrap it up too. But let's just briefly step through the high level code. So colors come in out defaults to 100. RGB list is equal to a list, which we are calling x2RGB on each one of these that came in here. So this is taking our colors from a list of strings, turning them into a list of basically tuples. N is the length of the list minus 1, which is the length of the colors minus 1. If we were to print at this point, this is basically just the same list we passed it, but tuples instead of strings. Technically lists, but right there. Okay. So in our case, right now, we gave it 3 colors. So our n is 3 minus 1, which is 2. Let's not worry about inside of there for now. Gradient is a list. The gradient list comes from comprehension right here of for t in range in out. In out is this, so ours is looping 10. Loop 10 times. 0 through 9 gets passed into Bezier interp. Well, no. 0 through 9 is what the value of t is. T over in out, which is 10 minus 1, which is 9. So 0 through 9 over 9 as we work our way through this loop. So 0 over 9 is still 0, for one thing. So that maybe points at where our black came from, although it definitely totally depends on what's going on inside of here. I conveniently hand-waved over, but it turns out is probably where the smoking gun, so to speak, is at. So Tia's coming in here. Summans is a map that gets lambdaed together from the Bernsteins. And then this gets enumerated for RGB list, which was our list of tuple numbers, tuple colors. But it's enumerate, so we get index color. Map. The lambda is making a function that returns this. Calls Bernstein T and I. N being this, I being current index through RGB list, T being what came into us, and then C being the actual color. Summands we were outputting earlier. We still are, actually. I thought this was the summands. Is that not the summands? Why is pronunciation so hard? I do not know. Pronounced B. Let's see. B. Bezier? Bezier? Oh, the curve. Bezier. Not Bezier. Okay. Bezier. How's it going, DJ Devin? Print summons. Right, that was the list of maps. It's not particularly... Maybe it's the same thing. Do we need to be making something into lists? Do we need to be making each one of these into a list? Doesn't make much sense, does it? I don't think it makes much sense, because we're still, because we're looping them in here. And this one we're already turning to a list here. I don't think this... That might have been it. That might have been it, because this looks better, right? This is the color we started with. And this is the color we ended with, and we don't have black in here. So that might have been it, actually. You need to list this thing. So now let's undo a bunch of what I have just done to get back to how it was originally and go back to more like how we want it, which is numbers. Which is... Yeah, we did... Oh, okay, we left this here. Look at that. Tim of the past. Thank you, my friend. Triple the hex. And also this. Boom, that one. Take this one right there. Okay. And then... Yeah, let's just run that and see if it crashes, because, like, it might crash, honestly. Not crash. Not crash. I don't know which colors are which. Can't tell what they look like anyway, because they're not hex. But we're going to go here. Colors, this. Put that one away. Boom, save it, run it. Drum roll, please. Yeah. Does that make any sense for the colors we gave it? It's better. It's better. I think it's correct. It's definitely better. If not correct all the way, it's better. And for that, I'm willing to count that as a win. I think that's right. Yeah, because we had pink. We start with pink. We go towards teal, but our teal is like a dark teal, right? A's instead of F's. So we go from pink towards teal, and then teal towards green. I will say the way it... The further down I tilt like this, the further down I go, the darker the blue looks right here. Like this is starting to look like a hard cut between pink and blue. The more like close on, the more straight on, I should say, you look at it, the better. The camera just can't, the angle makes it darker. It looks much better. The gradient looks much smoother to the naked eye, directly straight on. We are still generating only 10 colors, so obviously we still see our stripes. If we bump this up to 100, though, we should be getting pretty smooth, I think. Although probably this takes a while. Also, it probably takes much longer because we have prints in there. Current Tim is also smart. Good team. Yes. Current Tim and past Tim. One of my favorite teams of coders. Current Tim is always the smartest version. Hopefully. That's the goal, at least. Well, future Tim, if we count him, but... Okay, I think that is working. So it was basically the same thing, right? We basically fixed the same thing twice. What I am curious, though, is, like, why did this one not crash, right? Why did that one not crash? I feel I probably would have to understand a lot more of the actual front to back math to know why that didn't crash and instead resulted in the wrong list of colors, but a bunch of this could be done. I bet, yeah, you're probably right. I would guess that you are probably right, and most likely a much, I would assume, more efficient way to do it, but I do not yet have the microlab experience. I need to get into that a bit more still. Okay, so I am pretty happy with that. I think that's working. I think what I'll do is I am gonna head out for now because I want to get some food and just be done coding for a little while for the night. Left up to an exercise next time. It might be interesting to see the let me see, Bezier. It might be interesting to see the Bezier versus the polylinear on the same screen. Like maybe we draw the top half as Bezier and the bottom half as polylinear with the same colors, and then see, you know, well, that should highlight the difference. Like the middle should show us what the difference between those is. So that might be kind of cool to give us an idea of, like, hopefully understand the differences between the outputs of the Bezier curve gradient versus the polylinear, to see like when it might make sense to use one or the other. Because I'm not going to be able to know when it might make sense to use one or the other without being able to visualize really what the difference is, and that'll be a good way to do that. But I think that'll be an exercise for next time. Oh, that's a good point too about Microlab too. Yeah, probably more efficient than whatever we have here, but does limit the boards. Although I will say it's not 100% hard and fast rule, but generally speaking, boards that have display I/O are pretty likely to have Microlab. Again, not 100% across the board, but correlated, let's say. It's likely a board that has display I/O will have Microlab. So if display I/O is the primary reason to be using this, then you might still be in luck. However, I was talking about earlier, I think there might be applications with like NeoPixel or LED animation. I'd love to get some LED animations that can maybe go through a gradient or something like that, but all right. I am gonna head out for now. Microlab probably not on the M0s. I believe that is true, that Microlab I don't think is on the M0s unless you make a special build to turn it on. And while there are some situations where an M0 can do display I/O, I would essentially say it doesn't support it. Truthfully, in my head, the one situation I know of for sure is the Circuit Playground Express, and it's with the Gizmo display. And a bunch of other sacrifices, like a bunch of the other modules get turned off in order to be able to turn on display I/O. Basically, though, in general, I would say like M0, while it can sometimes technically support display I/O, it doesn't really, because you don't end up having enough room to make a bitmap that's even the size of the display or something. So, yeah. There would be some that could do it, but by and large, I kind of start my display I/O support at M4 in my head as like, these are the ones that it not only technically supports, but it actually functionally can do stuff, have enough RAM to actually have a bitmap the size of the display and stuff like that. Display I/O is a good way to separate board tiers. I think so, yeah. I mean, I'm biased because it's where I spend a lot of my time and effort and energy. But I think so. I think it makes a pretty good delineator of like the smaller boards can't handle display I/O and the bigger boards can. And that cutoff for me is kind of pretty much like M4. Like below the M4, I'd stay away from display I/O personally. M4 and above is the devices I'm looking at to use display I/O with. So have a good night, everybody. I don't know exactly when I'll be back, definitely Friday for deep dive, possibly sometime before then, we shall see. I do think I'll make that comparison the next time I'm back to play with these gradients. Possibly I'll end up doing that off stream, we'll see if it's interesting. I'll maybe post a photo into Discord or something like that, but hope everybody does have a good night, and I will see you next time, whenever it is that I return. So yeah.